talking Memphis wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
Yeah, hello again, everybody. See the shirt? I'm Randy Hales. This is Talking Memphis Wrestling, loaded March 19th. Talking Memphis Wrestling, not wasting any time. We're bringing in Pat Trammell, who had a fantastic weekend, and his first take will be telling members of Team Hales exactly what happened this weekend in the life of the Trammell family. Pat Trammell, welcome to Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody. Yeah, it was an exciting Friday night and into the wee hours of early Saturday morning as a male bonding rite of passage with my son Wyatt and other son Daquan. We went to Smackdown. We had 4 tickets. The missus ended up coming with us, and she enjoyed herself. Didn't quite know what was going on, but it was a big night in Memphis wrestling. I was telling the boys, Randy, you and I talked about this a little bit. There was a crowd of 12,000 there. That was the sold out crowd, and I explained to them that in the heyday of Memphis, we had this level of crowd every week, not once a year. So it was a good time, and after the matches were over, we eased out into Bill Street and went to there's the whole crew and
Now,
went to
identify everybody.
okay. There's Daquan Ball on the left, who's more or less like a son to me. He's one of Wyatt's best friends. Graduate of Auburn University. The only thing wrong with him. And there's Wyatt in the middle, and there's the missus on the right of Wyatt, Suzanne. So, and that's us. That's us before everything got started.
And let's look at whatever else we have. I think we have that is a picture of just the caption at the building. The other picture on the video screen is Jerry the King. And also,
Yeah.
we also have a picture, Pat, that you were nice enough to send me from Jerry Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. I think you
That's
said you
right.
didn't take a picture of it, but I think you told me there was a couple of pictures of ORH there.
There were a lot of pictures of all ORH there. A lot of pictures. A lot of Memphis Hall of Fame memorabilia. We had so much fun, we shut it down.
Shut it down. I want to say hello to Reese Lewis and Frank Seaton and Lazo from Australia and Gail Brooks. Crazy Gail. PJ in the house. Thomas Leonard making comments before we went on the air. I appreciate that very much. And of course, my best friend, Randy Dandy, Randy West. So you want to sum up that event as there's a I believe there is a picture of Rock and a SmackDown thing and also the singing thing. So as Pat talks about the experience of the matches, the TV show, and the concert they had, Adam, if you'll back Pat up with visual proof of what he's talking about. Here's Pat Trammell on Talking Memphis Wrestling. Randy West.
Well, as you know, The Rock was kind of the star of the show, and nodded props to his Flex Kavana days and his start in Memphis wrestling. Randy and I have kind of talked about this his impromptu rock concert. He got over huge with the crowd on that. Uh, Although I'd never seen him do that before, I think this is an extreme, a very interesting angle of he and Cody. And I was thinking about it, and I like this. They call this version the Hollywood Rock, and I'll tell you, he reminds me a little bit of Austin Idol. And I was trying to think of a feud in Memphis that might approach this. I think The Rock is basically demeaning Cody and turning him into a, you know, kind of a weakling babyface, which is exactly. It reminded me of the Flair Ricky Steamboat feud. And when I was thinking about it in Memphis, it reminds me some of Austin Idol. He's that character is the heel Austin Idol, and you know the baby face I can think about it. I got to know him in Atlanta when he was just the most white meat baby face ever. Depending on how you feel about that term, was Tommy Rich in Georgia. All the girls loved him. Uh, and you know, Idol, and he had a feud in Georgia, and Idol was the biggest heel in the world. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting feud.
Before we bring Michael St. John in to talk about your first steak, anything else you want to talk about before we get to Michael?
Well, you know, just as far as the matches go, I mean, the best match I saw all night was the tag match with New Catch Republic and Pretty Deadly. I thought that was pretty good. I was excited to see Randy Orton and Grayson Waller, and I like Randy Orton a lot. But I didn't. I wasn't really thrilled with how that match turned out. But I thought overall it was a great show.
What did they do with the finish?
On Orton and Waller,
Yes.
you know, it was typical Randy Orton being physical, throwing him around. You know, just hit a more or less a brain buster and put him out. I mean, you know, Waller wasn't physical enough. I wish I had seen a match between Orton and Drew McIntyre, but Cody and Drew did some stuff after, you know, kind of at the end. But I would have liked to have seen that match.
All right. That's a great feedback for you. And before we get into talking Hall of Fame, the Memphis Hall of Fame, more from the Memphis show, that sort of thing, I do want to bring in Michael St. John to his response from your report on SmackDown. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the legend from Alabama. Even though his team from Alabama lost their coach, but the good news is the Alabama coach, a former Alabama assistant coach that had the good dang sense to get out of that stinking state of Alabama, move to Arkansas, move to Jonesboro, get hired as the head coach of Arkansas State University. Fight, 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 go Red Wolves. Back in my day, it was the Indians, and I'm still Indians, but I love the Red Wolves. The head coach coming from your state and did the best job that's been done in a decade at Arkansas State University. I'll give him credit. He is in the top 10 list of people that will be named as the national new coach of the years. So thanks, Michael, you and Pat, for sending me Coach Hudson, as he's doing some magic, Alabama magic. It's rubbing off at Arkansas State. We're going to need, by the way, it sounds like we're going to need a women's basketball coach. Any ideas for that? Because 7 players from the Red Wolves ladies team has flown the coop into the portal, saying now they might not go. That's the way it goes. But this portal's driving me crazy. So a lot to impact, like your buddy, Conrad Thompson. I think you like him a lot better than I do. But anyway, refer to Pat, refer to the Alabama gig, refer to talk whatever, and then we'll get back to Memphis wrestling.
Did you get a haircut?
Yes, sir.
It looks good on you, buddy. Let me. That was the first thing I noticed. I said, Randy looks nice and sharp tonight. Hi, Pat.
My last haircut was December 6th, and then this past Thursday I got a haircut. So that's
Good
the haircut. And I go about every 3 months.
Pat, how long was that show, just for FYI? Did it start at 6?
It started at 6:45.
Okay.
and,
And when
we
did it end?
we were out of there by 11 o'clock.
Okay. How many breaks did they have elongated for any changes in whatever scenery, any of that
Uh,
kind of stuff?
not
Could you
not
tell
not.
it was a TV show?
I could not.
Good.
Yeah, I really could not, and I was looking for that, but there really wasn't anything elongated. I mean, they moved the rock stuff up when he did his concert, but I mean, other than that, it was just kind of continuous. And it may have been 10:30 when we got out of there.
Lawler was a busy man over the weekend. I noticed, Randy, that he was also at the Memphis Grizzlies game, and Jeff Jarrett was there.
Yes.
All right, good.
So, but and it was good. It's good seeing Jerry. I hope he continues to recover, and he looked better this time. The 2 times I saw him over the weekend than he did the last time. So that's a positive for the King. That's for sure. It's been a busy week around here. Of course, spring, first day of spring, and we wake up this morning and it's 30 degrees. But it was 64 in New York this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And it was 55 here. So better weather for spring. Everybody, though, spring is here. It came a day early. And you guys know why it came a day early?
Why?
Because of leap year.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So it came a day early. So anyway, been watching a lot of wrestling. I am very, and I'm going to say this, Randy, and I'm very, very hard on wrestling shows, perhaps more critical than I should be. But I'm going to say something. I think, and Pat, I'd love to hear what your comment is on this too. I think Monday Night Raw is become must-see TV and is probably on its hottest run. I'm thinking since the Attitude Era, maybe. I think the show's on fire.
No, I don't. I tend to agree. I mean, and I don't know that if one's down, one has to be up. And I don't know if it has anything to do with all events and stuff or not, but I just think they're doing a great. I mean, I just think the WWE is just poised to be on both shows. Is just doing fantastic work.
Well, the one thing I've noticed, and since the people from the UFC have come in, and they have really put their production mark on that show. The lighting is better. I love the fact that they're bringing the boys in before the show. They're doing a little pre-log, and here the boys walking in with their suitcases and getting out of the car and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing a little explanation thing where if you're not up to speed on the angles, they're bringing you up to speed on the angles. And I think Michael Cole, now that he doesn't have somebody barking in his ear constantly, has really taken that and taken it to the next step. But what's really taking it to the next step is Pat McAfee. I think Pat McAfee is turning into the Howard Cosell of the 21st century. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind.
Talking Memphis Wrestling, Pat Trammell, Michael St. John, Chris Ellis is stuck in a ball game, going to try to be here. Shane Russell commented and complimented the shirt that he gave me several years ago that you can see right now. This yellow again, everybody. Shane, I don't want you to go away because we will, in the third segment of the show, we are going to talk a little Lance Russell, because I'll go ahead and say it yesterday, which is March the 18th, would have been Lance Russell's 98th birthday. And here is the class of 94 inductee, Lance Russell. We will talk about that in our third segment of the day. Just real quick to button this up, Michael, any other thing in the first take?
That's pretty much about it. We're excited around here because it is spring, and we've got some exciting things happening with our radio stations, and it's a pretty busy time, and it's always good to get winter behind you, and especially in the South. I don't live in the South for cold weather, that's for sure, and just to get winter out of our picture for the most part. We may get a little Indian winter or whatever they call it, blackberry winter or whatever coming our way, but other than that, things are good, and I think I'm excited about this program tonight as well.
Hey, and I've added a bunch of stuff on, and you know me, I can't help myself. I was always like this, middle of the night, and I'm changing stuff and adding stuff. Never take stuff away, just sometimes we can't get to it. We mentioned talking about the Hall of Fame. Well, first, we're going to talk about the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame that recently celebrated its 30th birthday on March the 7th, 1994. On that first class was inducted into the Hall of Fame the great Lance Russell. And speaking of Smackdown, this past week, Kevin Lawler, who has helped me for several years in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, and who I normally don't see eye to eye on, and I've just answered his phone calls one time in the last year, but Adam likes him a lot better than I do, a lot better. And he did a great thing. I'll have to give the devil his due without a doubt in the world. Kevin did a great job, a great idea, and he did it. This past week, he went to Raw with Jerry Lawler and with Jerry Calhoun. And last year, we inducted into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame Soul Man Rocky Johnson. Kevin presented that plaque this past Friday night with Pat Trammell in the FedEx form. There is a picture, and this is just a close up of this wonderful. And Kevin also, the skies will knock me down, blow me down. Me talking good about Kevin for the second time, but Kevin creative and did a fantastic job with this Hall of Fame plaque. Soulman Rocky Johnson, Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, 2022 inductee. It was February 2022. Good looking plaque. And what do you guys think? And if there's any more, I think that's all the pictures we have there. And there is Rock and Kevin Lawler. A big thing happened behind the scenes, Pat and Michael, at the FedEx Forum.
Boy, there's a great shot.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But with Scott, that's real classy by Kevin. I'm glad he did that.
And I think and let's give some salute to Dwayne as well. He has a special place in his heart for Memphis wrestling, and I got to tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that he would take the time, and he's got to be the busiest man on earth right now, but he would take the time to get with Kevin, and that's a great thing, Randy. I'm very excited, very impressed by that.
Todd, I agree. We do need those, and we need to talk to Scotts about getting us some art for that.
And I agree that Lance Russell needs to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I really have said for many years, and in fact have said it to. In fact, I was talking to Tom Pritchard about it a while back, that the WWE Wrestling Hall of Fame, it should be the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. It should have a Hall of Fame place where you would go and see the plaques, maybe watch videos of the wrestlers, so forth and so on, get backstories. Just like any other Hall of Fame, Churchill Downs has a museum. The Baseball Hall of Fame, I've been to the Basketball Hall of Fame as well. The Football Hall of Fame in Canton, which I haven't been to, but the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Why not a Wrestling Hall of Fame? And the WWE should lead the charge. But with that being said, I think there should be a wing dedicated to the territories. And with that in mind, there should be a wing dedicated to the pioneers, the announcers that created the excitement in the territories that really are the foundation and the building blocks of what professional wrestling is today.
Very good points. Anything to add before we move on, Pat?
No, no. I've got a scheme to talk with you two with along those lines here privately, and I agree with Michael. I think wrestling, particularly the territories, deserve and need. I mean, and we're talking about history here, and you know it's hard, and I spend a lot of time with Wyatt and Daquan, for example, showing them old Memphis clips and old Georgia clips, and you know Thunderbolt Patterson, who was one of my absolute favorites, got in the WWE Hall of Fame, and so I was showing promos of that. that story needs to be told. There needs to be a place people can go, and I know the WWE has forever been hesitant to do an actual building, and it doesn't make sense to me because I know they have a giant collection that they send out from time to time. But I don't understand that. But yes, Michael, I agree with every bit of that. There needs to be separate territory areas. There needs to be announcers areas. There needs to be wrestlers areas. Along. I mean, so much can be done with this.
I think they could pattern it after the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it would be fabulous. And by the way, just so you know, it bees that way sometime.
I know.
Todd Alexander asked who brought in Flex Kavana to the USWA. Was it Jarrett or Lawler? It was me, because Jim Ross, in charge of talent relationships, I was booking, so they called me, and Jim asked if we could get there, certainly, and have that happen. So we brought him in to the territory. Folks, let's go, Adam, to me. Full screen real quick. Attention, Shane Russell. Attention, Shane Russell. Heads up. Listening to the next segment of this show. We talk about it every single show we do. Everybody that's on this show, everybody that listens to this show knows the greatness of Lance Russell. Yellow again, everybody. The greatest wrestling announcer there's ever been. He is a legend. He is an icon. He was better at what he did than anybody, to quote Harley Race, on God's green earth. As Michael and Pat says, he should be in any Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame for sure. He is iconic. Broadcasting Hall of Fame. He is known all over the world. Lance Russell was great. Now, as we said, he was born in 1926. We lost Lance on October the 3rd, 2017. On the 18th, just a few days ago, yesterday, Lance would have turned 98 years old. He has two great sons. Our friend Shane Russell, who has been a guest on this show so many times, would love to sometimes have Shane's older brother, William Lance, on the show, but William Lance and Shane, every year around Lance's birthday, put together a great video. Now, I showed this last night, and I normally don't repeat video from the Monday show to the Tuesday show. I did it yesterday because it was timely on his birthday. Do it today because Shane's watching, because Pat's here and Michael's here. This is a fantastic. Our microphones will not be hot. It's in the clip side. This is courtesy of the Voice of Wrestling, the Lance Russell Facebook page, and this is courtesy of the Russell family.
Everybody, William Lance Russell here. It is March the 18th of 2024. Today is Lance's birthday. He would have been 98 years old today. And as we have done on many of his birthdays in the past, we wanted to make a video just to honor Lance's memory. And I use the phrase we because a while back I connected over a Zoom call with my brother Shane. Shane is the one who talked Lance out of retirement and got him to go attend some of the Wrestle Reunion events that take place from time to time. So we started our Zoom call with me asking Shane how he managed to talk the old man off the couch and get him back into the arena.
We actually got a call from a gentleman, Jeffrey Osborne, up in Kentucky, and he asked us to come up. And I had said to Dad, I said, "Hey, you want to go up to a Comic-Con?" I had explained to him what a Comic-Con was, but he said, nobody's going to know who I am. They're not going to remember me. I said, "Dad, are you kidding me?" I said, "This will be great." I said, "They're going to remember you. Trust me." From there, it just skyrocketed. We got more and more people wanting him to come to wrestling shows and Comic-Cons, and he just had a blast doing that.
Shane is not exaggerating. Attending those events, getting to see all of the wrestlers and connect with so many of the fans of Memphis wrestling was the best medicine Lance could have taken. gave him a new lease on life. And I asked Shane when we were talking on the Zoom call if there was any one event that stuck out in his mind as being particularly special to Lance.
You know, I definitely would have to say the Las Vegas trip to Cauliflower Alley was the highlight of the whole thing. We did a bunch of different ones around the area, but Vegas, without a doubt, was the best. And of course, you were there, and our sister Valerie was there. Dad really wanted to take the whole family out there and have one last hurrah.
I was so impressed with all the people who just wanted to, come up and say hi to Dad and get his autograph. And what was really impressive is the wrestling talent that was there that week. It was, I got to meet Paul Orndorff. First time I'd ever met Paul Orndorff. And I was just
Mr. Wonderful, yeah. Yeah, Paul Orndorff, JR, Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler was there, of course, inducting Dad. Gene Okerlund. I got a great picture of Gene Okerlund, Jim Ross, and Dad all together. And I mean, that's just three of the icons of wrestling announcing right there.
One of the last events that Lance attended was a show in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and it turned out to be a really special night. It was a standing room only crowd. As a matter of fact, the fire marshal had to come and cut off ticket sales. There were so many people coming through the door. And there were a lot of wrestling names you would recognize who were there. And what made it so special was the one and only Dave Brown came over from Memphis and worked the evening with Lance, and it was so special to see them together again. I do have to say there was one thing that happened that evening that made me a little nervous. One of the things I remember really a lot about the Jonesboro trip was his introduction when they put him behind that curtain on the floor and they turned all the lights out in the arena, shined that big spotlight, and his eyes were kind of failing as he was getting old and all, and I'm sure he couldn't see a thing when that curtain opened. I was so worried, and then it dawned on me, well, this is not his first rodeo. He has been in dark arenas before, and like you say, right. They called his name, the curtains opened, he walked out there. He did his old man walk, but he got out there and got up the day. Never missed a beat, man. And it was, my worries were unfounded. It was
there's a great video of that whole sequence. We got to find it, but it shows Dad walking out. Dave Brown's waiting for him right by the ring, and again, they put that mic in Dad's hand, and boy, he goes right into it. Hello again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. I mean, it was just perfect.
He loved doing that line, I think. Hello again, everybody.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. Well, look at my shirt here. Look at this. I love this shirt.
Yeah, a classic.
Had to wear it. Hello again, everybody. So,
you talk about looking for that tape. I actually have a copy of that tape. Why don't we take a look at it right now and relive that moment?
Let's do it.
So Shane, I have to ask you. You are probably probably about it. You are one of the two foremost experts on the subject of living with Lance, and he is so familiar to everybody throughout the Mid-South, really throughout the nation, wrestling fans and all. He's a household name for folks who are involved in that, and I guess he's pretty much an open book. I wonder if, as an expert on living with Lance, you might be able to tell us something about Lance that maybe not everybody knows.
Well, I'll tell you something really interesting that probably nobody knows is that Lance was not his given name. So his actual given name, birth name, was Lanier Russell. And believe it or not, that was it. There's no middle name or anything. So, but how he got Lance, when he got in high school, the teacher evidently couldn't read the writing. And instead of saying Lanier, asked about Lance Russell. And of course, Dad, believe it or not, was so shy. He couldn't raise his hand and say, no, my name's Lanier. So he just let it stay as Lance. And then years later, when it became a household name, he went and actually had it legally changed with a judge who I think, if I'm not mistaken, who's actually was Judge Lanier in Memphis, Tennessee.
He actually looked at Dad during the course and wanted to know if he had a problem with the name Lanier. And he was okay. Yeah.
Hey, this has been fun, man. I've enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, I enjoy too. Thank you very much for giving us some time. Maybe we should try this again sometime.
I tell you what, I got some great stories, other great stories, not just about wrestling, but about Dad's other job, which I think people know he's program director at WHPQ TV. I think they'd be love to hear about, especially folks in Memphis.
Yes, absolutely, folks in Memphis. We have Watson Davis stories. We have Happy Hal stories and Bill Killebrew stories and Talent Party stories and
Bill Dance stories, George Klein stories. I mean, there's lots.
Yeah. And you know what? There is also video of Lance talking about his days in wrestling that has never been seen before. So we should put our heads together and put something together soon.
I'd love to. This was great. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you. We'll talk later.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Imagine me as a kid at 10 years old starting one morning watching Channel 13. It's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television, and seeing Lance Russell and Dave Brown for the first time live from the studios of Channel 13 on Highland Drive in Memphis, Tennessee. And then all those years later at the Earl Bell Community Center. Here's a fact about that building, folks. That's the first place that ever had pro wrestling in Jonesboro. The original Gorgeous George had wrestled there in the 50s before it moved to the American Legion building on Washington, and then back to the Earl Bells during the late days of the USWA, then the Power Pro days. But to be there that night, as a matter of fact, I switched heel, not on Lance Russell, because I wasn't going to do that. And I had told Brandon I agreed to do the thing where I turned on him, which goes into our story, and it made sense. But I said I'm not going to do that before Lance's deal. I'm going to do that before Lance's deal, and then I'm done. I'm done, and I will look through the little peephole watching Lance thing. But you can imagine me watching Lance walk from the back of that venue, and as William Lance said, the old man walk, I didn't think that, but the respect of my town, Jonesboro, Arkansas, that respect of the people. And you saw when Lance talked the first time, and we were all worried because he was kind of low-key and that sort of thing. But those story with the performer when that red light comes on, but when Dave introduces and said, "Yellow again, everybody," did you notice that shot of Dave Brown? That he was the biggest audience in a pack full of arena. He was the biggest applauder. So that's what I take out of that from Jonesboro, Arkansas. Thanks to the Russells for putting that together. And I was fantastic. The clip from Jonesboro, fantastic. I love me some Lance Russell. I miss me some Lance Russell. There's nothing I can say except for this. As long as I'm still alive, I can guarantee you Shane will do it, Rusty will do it, Adam will do it, Michael will do it, Chris will do it, Pat Trammell will do it, and I damn sure will do it. Lance Russell will never, ever, ever be forgotten. As we are just a day past his birthday, we still continuing the party on Lance Russell. Final words for today's show. Maybe not, because you know how we get. We'll come back to it. Final words on this situation and what we just saw, Mr. Trammell.
I think Al put it right in his comment there. He said, without realizing it at first, I was smiling through the whole video. But you get emotional, and obviously, I'm late to the Memphis game, but a couple things. The icon that he was, and in Jonesboro, you could tell when he was walking in, the respect that those people had for him, and I mean it sent chills up my spine. If 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 anybody has 2% of the respect of their peers and everybody else that Lance Russell did, they're blessed indeed. Second thing I thought when William Lance and Shane were talking about him changing his name. Can you imagine a judge in Shelby County, Tennessee, telling Lance Russell no to anything? He could have changed his name to Muhammad Ali Russell, and I'm sure it'd have been just fine with the judge.
Oh.
And Lance, Laza, to answer your question, there's not one yet, but there will be.
Michael, your comments.
And it's funny because Pat stole sort of my line because when Al wrote that, I'm sitting here watching, and I'm smiling. And I mean, how can you not smile? And that, I think, is a testament to the greatness and how he affected our lives. And you talk about these days, in this day and time, there are so few positive influencers. And I'm going to use an old word, and I'm going to use a new word, influencer. There are very few positive influencers. I don't care if it's on television, on in the radio business, and in the internet business, social media, whatever. There are very few. But Lance Russell, and to that matter, Dave Brown, were positive influences to all of our lives. And I think it's part of what they did in life, but also the way they conducted themselves and put themselves over by being good guys and just playing the role that they actually are. There was no pretense, whether with Lance or Dave. And I think that is a testament to what they did. And I had a lot of folks have jumped on that idea about where the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame should be, the building. And I agree. This would be a great time for the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum to be resurrected and to be made a shrine, a worldwide shrine. People already come to Memphis for Graceland. Wouldn't it be neat if people came to Memphis to relive the world of professional wrestling?
It would be fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And Brian says, Randy, you should do a show dedicated to telling nothing but Lance Russell stories. We've had Shane on multiple times, and I bet we do a Lance Russell themed show once a month. I mean, we can continue. There are unlimited number of stories, unlimited at all. Al Tuttle, appreciate those comments, and certainly Ronnie Crowder agrees 100%. Once again, for the 4th or 5th Street, fifth week in a row, we're having great numbers. So what we're putting at you, folks, absolutely you want to see, and I want you certainly to help with this. Now, Shane Russell has a comment, and Frank had something too, and Shane says it was a special night in Jonesboro. Dad and me and my 2 daughters rode over in Jonesboro with the King in a limousine. It was a fun ride. Jerry had to stop at Tops in Marion for a hamburger. So that's interesting. Shane's certainly will have to get you back on. I think I also have to say that show in Jonesboro, tribute to Memphis Wrestling by East Arkansas Broadcasting, headed by Brandon Baxter, put that all together, and it was a wonderful night in his life that he had the opportunity to mix radio and broadcasting with wrestling and with his heroes. And the number one thing he said, and I don't know if you know this, Shane, and I'm talking to an audience of one right now, Brandon Baxter said, I'm not doing this show. Said, we don't have to do it when we have the hold on the building. It doesn't matter. If it's, said, we absolutely can't do this show without Lance Russell. So I believe Brandon got a hold of Shane. Shane handled all Lance's bookings, and it was just a tremendous night. I was at the souvenir stand. My table was Lance, Dave, and me. So I was out of place there, but it was fantastic at all. Todd, the transition went from Lance and Dave to Dave and Ronnie Gossett, who was a heel, which was a smart choice because nobody was going to like that. And then the transition after Ronnie Gossett was Michael St. John. And honestly, as good as Michael is, I'm sure Michael wouldn't have wanted to be the one immediately following a 30-year run of Lance Russell because the people had Lance Russell in their hearts. You didn't care if they didn't like Gossett. But by the time it was time for Gossett to go, Michael to come in, they switched Gossett heel, which he was a heel anyway. Then it was easy because Michael is one of the nicest guys I know, and it would have been unfair. And we've never talked about this, Michael. As you look back at that time period, you didn't immediately replace the first time that you came on television, you replaced Gossett, not Lance Russell. As a broadcaster, they always say if it's, in other words, you have to pick the right replacement. The replacement for Dave Brown on the weather at Channel 5 was the person Dave mentored for 20 years, Ron Childers. So that worked. That absolutely worked. But you as a broadcaster can name names of radio teams when they had to be replaced or they left or retired or whatever. Usually that next replacement doesn't work because it's so to the original.
Paul Kennedy.
Yeah, perfect example, former Alabama announcer. And you're right. And you never want to, I've always heard this since I was a little kid. You never want to replace a legend. You know, I'm thinking right now that Ray Perkins 2.0 is the new head football coach at Alabama because he's the man that is replacing Nick Saban, just like Ray Perkins replaced Bear Bryant. Ray Perkins was welcomed to this state as the head coach of Alabama with open arms when it was announced. And 2 years later, he couldn't get elected dog catcher. And I sort of see the same thing. They went outside the tree, the Bryant tree, although Perkins had played for Bryant, they went to the NFL to get him. And I remember a bumper sticker that came out, and this was about the same time as the Run Bo Run or one of those stickers were out. And one comes out and says, "It took a giant to replace the bear." You didn't see that sticker on cars very much because once they lost that game to Vanderbilt that first year, I mean, his name was mud. So it's going to be interesting on that perspective to see how Kalen DeBoer succeeds or not succeeds Nick Saban. It's the next guy that will normally get the next spotlight. So it was the same way in wrestling, and not only there, but in other territories as well. So and Jerry Jarrett, actually, we had talked about it because I was doing the interviews and with Randy West, we were doing the inserts and all that stuff for the other markets on a weekly basis. And I was being groomed and being prepared for it. And when I had the opportunity, it was, and I would have taken the opportunity. I'm, at that point in time in my life, I just loved being associated with the world of professional wrestling and certainly the wrestling in the Mid-South. And, it was much more comfortable to come in following Ronnie Gossett than I would have come in following Lance or Dave. I mean, it's just, and my thoughts are it was an honor and still to this day, one of the highlights of my life and career to have worked with each of those men, both in tandem or individually. And, I'll never have an opportunity to hit that highlight again.
Now, the second time you came back for a good period of time, Dave was gone, Corey was gone, Lance came back the first week. He did the show with Jerry Lawler. The next week you came in and we talked about that, how you did a great job in that run. The second time that you came back in was a perfect transition because you weren't replacing Lance. Lance was right there with you, Michael.
It was, and the chemistry. I will never hold a candle to Dave Brown, I can assure you. But there was an instant familiarity and chemistry and closeness and comfort zone, certainly for me, and I think for Lance too. And Lance, in fact, would compliment and say, I really respect, timing. You know when to step in with something and when to shut up. Not maybe in those words, but he was always complimentary of the aspect of us being a team. And whether you're color man or play-by-play or whatever the case may be, there's got to be that flow. And we never had to. We just could feel each other with what was being said and how it was being said when it was time to come on and talk. So Lance made it extremely easy, and as did Dave. I mean, they were both. Hey, listen, when you're talking about two of the greatest of all times, they can do no wrong in my book.
Hey, great comments there, Michael St. John. And Michael, if you want to show that, you can. I mean, Adam, if you have a video for us to show, you can go ahead and show it. And he doesn't. Okay, that threw me off out of the blue. We had a video playing, then it wasn't playing. And real quick, as we'll talk about Lance at the end of the show, coming up in a few minutes, a lot of people here, but call a friend, call a neighbor, call anybody you want to call, because by God, I can tell you right now, we have more to say about Lance at the end of the show. Our next video segment that we have, we will take a look at The Rock as Flex Kavana in Memphis. But first, his final words for a few minutes about Lance Russell and our discussion the last 30 minutes is Pat Trammell.
Well, it's interesting to hear Michael talk about that, and I've enjoyed watching he and Lance when they worked together. And Michael, it's interesting to me because you spent most of your career as a solo act, right, on the radio. But I mean, you and Lance had an absolute chemistry, and that just speaks to how good both of you were. Because it's almost like I don't know how to characterize this any other way. It's almost like being the second wife. Lance and Dave were together for so long, and you stepped in and it brought something new, but it also was Memphis wrestling as we know and love it.
Michael, Adam is showing the video, no sound, of you, Lance, and Stacy. Look at Michael St. John, dark-headed and a mustache. Man, how about that, Michael?
All my kids could say that I had a porn stash back then. I don't know if or not, but I appreciate this. And just to your point, Pat, there was a bit of familiarity, and again, credit the genius of Jerry Jarrett and Randy West and Randy Hales and Jerry Lawler and all. By even when Jerry bought out Nick and I was doing all the play-by-play on the bicycle in the 12 towns every Saturday, he kept me in the loop. And he also sort of said, I'm going to, I want you to be on call when I need you. Would you do? And I said, of course. And of course, Jerry Jarrett and I lived all of 2.5 minutes away because he was on the top of the hill on Cumberland Hills Drive, which became Bonita Parkway, and I lived on Bonita Parkway. So if he needed me or Randy needed me in a quick instant, I could be there in just a few minutes. And by keeping me involved, whether it was reading a card or doing a VO or whatever the case may be, I was able to stay abreast as to what was happening and also be on ready, so to speak. And oh boy, there's a good one. My hairstylist there, believe it or not, guys, still does my hair. But anyway, shout out to Riquet in Nashville. But I got to tell you, it was a, and you know what's funny, and I want to throw this out real quick. They took me to Dallas to start doing the ESPN show in the Sportatorium. And I'm not saying that wasn't professional. That was very professional. And ESPN, the crew down there knew what they were doing. But I'll tell you what, the comfort zone in the Memphis studio and sitting with Lance Russell and or Dave Brown was not comparable to sitting in the Sportatorium in Dallas to being with whoever I was paired with, normally a wrestler. And there was something magical. There was something special about Memphis TV. And I don't know what it was, but it was that it factor, and it was there.
Very good. It's a great conversation. Michael, we're getting so many comments, so I've got to revise again. Everybody's complimenting the great cat. So can we get a better shot of the cat?
I got to move the microphone.
Okay.
Jazz, they want you on TV.
All right. Beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Wherever I am, Jazz is, and I've told the story before. When I came from the hospital after surviving COVID and was anchored down here and where I'm at now in the bedroom right across the hallway, she came. I got home about 7:00 that night. She joined me. My wife is sequestered upstairs with pneumonia, so we could talk phone from upstairs to downstairs. I'm on full oxygen for the 4 days down here with her. And she was my nurse. So wherever I am, and really when Josh is over here, she's like glue with him too. So just a little, and her name is Jasmine is her real name. We all call her Jazz.
All right. That's absolutely fantastic. More Lance Russell in a minute. This is Talking Memphis Wrestling. Bottom of your screen is Mr. Pat Trammell. Pat, wave to the people. Also at the top of the screen, the right side of the screen, is Randy Hales, the owner, founder, president, Power Pro Wrestling. And on the left side, that's me. On the left side, the legendary broadcaster, Michael St. John. And we are going to talk a little bit about The Rock. That is Dwayne Johnson, as you know, the son of Rocky Johnson. We saw that picture a little bit ago, the Hall of Fame plaque presented to Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, this past Friday night at the FedEx Forum, and that was a great moment as there's Kevin Lawler and The Rock this past Friday night, and I know that meant a lot to The Rock without a doubt in the world. I think without a doubt. Dwayne Johnson was born on May the 2nd, 1972. He's currently 51 years old. His dad was a legendary Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer and WWE Hall of Famer Rocky the Soulman Johnson. His mom, Acta. His grandfather was the High Chief Peter Maivia. The Rock, and I wanted to tell the story right now because somebody asked the question, did Jerry Jarrett bring The Rock in? Did Jerry Lawler bring The Rock in? No, that's not what happened. Jim Ross was the head of talent relations, and Pat Patterson was the person that signed or reached out to The Rock and had Jim Ross sign him, and they trained him, and obviously his dad helped with the training. They were living in Florida. What college was it Miami, Michael, that he played college football at?
Number 52 linebacker of the University of Miami. He was a senior in 1992, played in the national championship in New Orleans against Alabama. Have I ever told you the story of after that game, about the fire scare at the hotel I was staying at. We left New Orleans and we're going to head back to Alabama, but it was too late at night. We'd been to Bourbon Street and celebrating and everything. We end up at a Days Inn in Slidell, Louisiana. It was a high rise, about 6 stories high.
I've been there.
And okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We were on the 2nd floor. It was me, my ex, my sister, and my brother-in-law, and a good friend of ours, Barry Wells, who was my insurance agent and one of my best friends. We always called him Bama because he's a big Bama fan living in Gallatin, Tennessee. Well, we got in there. We got that last room, and we got to bed about 4 o'clock. So we're camped out. One's on the couch. And we got 2 double beds. Everybody, we were just crashed. And about 7:15, fire alarms. We hear fire trucks. The alarm's full. There's somebody beating at our door. Get out, get out. The hotel's on fire. The hotel's on fire. Well, they wouldn't let us go in the hallway. We had to crawl out the window from the 2nd floor and go down, shimmy down. And we get down, and once we got down, the parking lot's full of people in various stages of dress and undress. And standing next to me is a guy in boxer shorts with a t-shirt, and his wife is with him. She's in a bathrobe. And I look over and I did a double take. I went, hell, that's Rocky Johnson. So I walk over there and I'm in a sweatsuit or a sweat top and a pair of running pants. And I said, Rocky. I said, Michael St. John from Memphis Wrestling. He went, man, what are you doing here? So we got to talking. Well, come to find out, his car's behind us. We walked over behind the car and we were chatting. There's a jersey sitting in his back seat with number 52 on it. I said, were you at the game? He said, yeah, man, Billy plays for Miami. And I was like, really? And so anyway, we're the next day after the national championship game, we're in a fire alert. And who's in the next room, unbeknown to me, but Rocky Johnson. And I mean, those kind of things, you talk about small world. That's totally a small world. Thank God the hotel didn't burn down, but some fool, I think, smoking in bed, and he burned up a couple of rooms, but we were out there a good 90 minutes maybe before they let us back in. And at that point, we just grabbed our stuff and checked out and got further up the road and found a shower and showered. But I mean, it was crazy times.
Funny story. Jim Ross called me and said, hey, Randy, said we've signed Dewey. Obviously, when he was a kid, everybody called him Dewey. Didn't call him Dwayne. They called him Dewey. He said, we signed. I said, great. He said, do you have a spot for him? I said, good God, yes. He said, you hadn't seen his work? I said, I know his dad. I said, certainly he'll be fine. And so he said, yeah, when do you want to start him? I said, how about the first week of June? He said, okay. And I said, man, this will be great. This will be fantastic. I'm so fired up. I said, man, I can shoot angle. I can bring Q Heels in and jump him on TV. Then I can bring Rocky in the next week and we can sell out the Mid-South Coliseum. It will be great. And then JR says, no, Randy, you can't do that. I said, do what? That'll sell out. That'll be great. That's ingenious. That's fantastic. Why can't I do that? He said, because Vince was half right, half wrong on this. He said, Vince thinks this guy will be the biggest star that pro wrestling ever had. Now, that's where he was right. Where he was wrong, he said, under the name of Flex Kavana. And that's how he debuted. I was told very strictly, no mention of who Flex Kavana was or who he was related to. He debuted at Memphis TV on Channel 5, 1960 Union in Memphis for the USWA on June the 8th, 1996. His debut at the Mid-South Coliseum 2 days later on June the 10th against Tony Falk. He first won a couple of weeks later, the Southern Tag Team Championship in a tournament. I think that was on June the 17th. This was the very last card before moving to the big one, and the very last card of the Mid-South Coliseum on Weekly Wrestling on June the 17th. He teamed with Bart Sawyer to defeat Brickhouse Brown and Reggie B. Fine in that tournament. Then his last TV match, and we'll get to that in a minute when we'll show that, but his debut on June the 8th. Now, I want to explain this video. On this video, and it's on the very first video on the clip side, Adam, the very first one that you come to, that's the one it will be. But let me set it up. It starts with the Jerry Lawler interview, and then Brian Christopher and his brand new tag team partner, and that interview is what's going to air next. So, guys, are you ready to see the Memphis TV debut? Are you ready, Team Hells, to see the professional wrestling television debut anywhere on the face of the world of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Flex Kavana? Pat, are you ready for it?
I'm absolutely ready. And so PJ asked, so the name Flex Kavana came from Vince.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've always given you credit or blame.
I've never taken credit for that because it's the worst name in the history of wrestling. Michael St. John, are you ready?
Amen. And if we can, at the end of it, I do have a question. So let's roll this.
Okay, this is a rather lengthy 17-minute video, so I know you're getting of age, so you need to write notes to yourself so you won't forget the story. Don't forget the story as we play the video right now. Adam's going to do his deal and push the button.
You scared of him or what? No, you scared of him.
There it is, the King picking up the USWA heavyweight title, and not only has he got that, he's the co-holder of the tag team titles too with the superstar Bill Dundee. They're going to be defending right in here in just a moment. Before they get to the ring, I want to get him out. Here he is, the superstar Bill Dundee. Billy,
What, sir?
and the King carrying out that big belt, and I got to tell you, I came back to town. I'm gone a couple of weeks. I come back to town. I'm stunned to find Lawler and Dundee together again with the titles. I just couldn't hardly believe it. Unbelievable.
What is unbelievable about Lawler and Dundee being champions?
Well,
They've
I'm
always
ju-
been champions, Lance.
I
Come on.
understand. Hey, now, I got to tell you, I got to add one other thing. I talked to some of the wrestling fans since I've been back a couple of days, and I heard a few of them talking about some of the tactics and some of the things that were used. That Bill used a chain in order for you guys to win that.
Now, I heard that. I heard that, and I was really upset about that, Lance. But I went back, I looked at the tape, I reviewed it, and I got to admit the camera angle was not the best, but I saw no chain. I didn't see a chain.
So you got the titles, and that's all that matters, right?
Bill assured me he didn't use a chain.
No, I didn't use a chain. Well, let me ask you this. How are we always the bad guys around here? We've been here forever. I mean, it's just like, and nobody said this a long time to you.
Hey.
Mr. Banana Nose, let me ask you something. When Frank Morrell had a heart attack and they stole his belt, did he whinge and cry? No, he just took it like a man, come out and won another belt.
Well, you have a point there, but
I have a point.
it's not a question so much. You guys have had your good times and bad times together. I was just stunned to see you back together. Not that you had the titles, because we've all known greatest tag team that we've seen around here in a lot of years.
keep talking about
And one of the good things about it, I will give you credit for this, guys, you're going to defend it right here today against a pretty substantial team, or what could be. You're going against Brian Christopher and Flex Kavana. Now, I don't know Kavana.
Flex
You
Kavana.
may, well, that's his name. And let me tell you one thing. You know how the word gets around in the wrestling business or in a lot of other businesses. I have heard this guy
On a hotline or something like that?
on the hotline. They're all talking. What I'm telling you, they say this guy is one of the great things coming down the pike.
I've heard a little bit about him. I heard he's Nice looking kid, got a lot of muscles. But I also heard the biggest muscle he's got is right between his ears. So I don't think that Bill and I will have any problem. Sure, there's a lot of guys. Hey, look at Brian Christopher. You know, he's all flexed up, and Flex Kavana and all these guys. They got a lot of muscle. Hey, you know what? What Bill and I lack in the physique department, we more than make up for in the mental department, brother. We've forgotten more wrestling than Brian Christopher and Flex Kavana will ever know in their entire lifetime. So it should be no problem.
Well, that's what we're going to be finding out.
Lancer, I'm just going to tell you this, and I've said it for years. Wrestling is physical chess. When you make a mistake, the king or the superstar is going to capitalize, and that's all there is about that, and we keep in their belts.
You guys head to the ring, and we're looking forward to the tag title. The absolute tag champions, the King, Jerry Lawler, and superstar Bill Dundee. Corey Macklin's the man right now.
Okay, Lancer, let's do it. Right here today, it's a USWA Tag Team Title Match. First introducing the current holders of the USWA Tag Team titles. Coming in today at a combined weight of 441 pounds. From Australia, the superstar, Bill Dundee. And his partner wrestling out of Memphis, Tennessee, here is the King, Jerry Lawler. Lawler and Dundee, the current holders of the tag team titles. Their opponents today coming in at a combined weight of 495 pounds. From Memphis, Tennessee, Too Sexy, Brian Christopher. And his partner making his very first appearance here in the USWA from the islands of Hawaii. Here is Flex Kavana. Flex Kavana. We're ready for action. Bill Rush, the official referee. Let's send it over now to my buddies Lance and Dave.
Boy, this is the way you get it started for real, isn't it, Dave? I got to tell you, when you got a team, Brian Christopher, Flex Kavana.
Dave, real quick before we get this match started, I just wanted to come over here and introduce you and introduce Lance and introduce all the fans to this man right here. This is Flex Kavana, baby. Oh, yeah. Now get ready. Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, I heard what you said. This man heard what you said. You said that you make up for the lack of big muscles with your ability. Well, you make up for the lack of big muscles with your big fat mouths. And me and Flex are going to shut them for you today. And we're walking out of here the new USWA Tag Team Champions.
You know, it's as simple as this. It's very short, quick, and simple. We're very naughty by nature, and we're very violent by decision. You know what? I'm done talking. Get ready, because here we come.
There they go, headed for the ring. Flex Kavana from Hawaii. Brian Christopher, you know him well. You also know the champions, the superstar and the king. This one has the makings of a real match here for the USWA today. Tag titles are on the line.
We also got a little edge put on it with Lawler and Dundee making their comments about the lack of mental abilities of their two opponents and turning right around, not being the shy and retiring one. Too Sexy Brian Christopher says, you make up for it with your big mouth. That's what you do. I'm looking forward to this one, Dave.
Oh, ought to be a good one. Lawler starting for the team of Lawler and Dundee. Lance, keep your eye on you mentioned you've heard some of the fans talking about the tactics that Lawler and especially Dundee have used in the match. I was a little shocked last week at some of the things that I saw going on as they won the titles. We'll see what happens here today.
Scoop slam. Christopher repeats it. Slams Lawler down 3 times in a row. And here comes Dundee. Scoop slammed him. And off and running, and I mean full tilt, is Brian Christopher as he handled Lawler and Dundee consecutively. And we haven't even seen that big strapping guy that's his partner, Flex Kavana. Heard a lot about him. Be interested to see him the first time he gets into action.
Well, Brian Christopher, since the first day we saw him, has exuded confidence as he stepped into the ring, and he certainly showing it here today. He has had all kinds of championship belts himself, no stranger to titles. And he and his partner, he feels even more confident with Flex Kavana standing over in his corner as his partner today, as they go for the tag team titles. Well, now there is something that maybe could be described as an attention getter for Brian, as Lawler just dumped him, slammed him right in the center of the ring.
After the early opening that he had so successful, that was kind of a wake-up call as Lawler beat him to the snatch and grab, picked him right up and slammed him down. And back they tangle it up. Collar and elbow, back to the corner. Christopher pushing the head back to whip diagonally across the ring. Hooks that arm, and I mean, he hip-tossed him right out in the middle. Christopher looking strong.
Lawler a little disgusted. The referee checking with Brian to see what happened, because he has been informed by the team of Lawler and Dundee that Christopher pulled tights. That's what Dundee is saying. They tie it up again. Back in the corner. Lawler with the advantage. He whips him across the way into the turnbuckles. Oh, Christopher blocks. Hey, that short clothesline took him right down to the mat. Dundee had wandered into the ring. Brian said, hey, I'm ready with a super kick anytime you're ready to head this way. Dundee back out on the apron.
Referee Bill Rush trying to get him to settle down now and stay right with wrestling. I don't know that that's going to be the case, not with the personalities involved.
Fans on the front row chanting super kick, super kick. They want to see Brian unleash one.
I want to see his partner get in there and unleash one, well, see what he looks like.
That's what Lawler has just said. Said, hey, why don't you go to the corner? Let's see what your partner can do, huh? I said, okay. Here comes Flex Kavana. First look at him on USWA Wrestling on TV.
He's a big dude. You can. It's no great observation. It's pretty easy to see when you stack him upside the king in there. But as Lawler said, there's no substitute for that experience and mental abilities. And Lawler puts his shoulder. And right away, I mean, that's a jumping jack. Knocked him down. He popped back up before he could turn around.
Well, he lets Lawler go by a couple of times, sets, takes him down, and immediately back on his feet to catch Lawler on the rebound.
Oh, yeah! Looking good.
Dundee's livid. Yeah, screaming he pulled his hair. He did not. Lawler immediately got over to the side of the ring and wrapped both feet around the bottom rope. And now Lawler and Dundee are outside the ring. And maybe they didn't exactly want to see what Flex Kavana can do, because Mr. Kavana sure looked good first time around here.
They've seen it up already. They know that this guy can go. This is not the first time he's had a pair of tights on. There's the tag on the superstar. In he comes. He'll be tangling for the first time with Kavana.
Lawler and Dundee not impressed early on, but now that they've seen not only Brian but Kavana, you got to wonder, would their confidence be shaken? Do they now feel, hey, these belts are in jeopardy?
Well, I don't know, Dave. We both know Lawler and Dundee, and it takes a lot to shake the confidence of these two veterans. Dundee right straight at him, and immediately he's pushed off and down on the floor again, almost rolls out to the concrete floor. And Lawler comes in, puts the finger out, and I don't know exactly what he's saying. He pulled his hair. That's what Lawler's saying.
Well, that's what Lawler and Dundee have both been doing. They've been complaining about pulling tights, pulling hair, anything they can do to kind of get the referee watching their opponent more closely.
Tie up. Dundee shovels him into the rope. There's a leapfrog. Comes around on the drop kick. As Dundee down on the deck, not the greatest drop kick I ever saw, but by golly, it put Dundee on the deck.
I think that shows some of the power of Flex Kavana. He did not get a good drop kick, but Dundee was fairly close to him, and it knocked Dundee back, especially considering what Dundee had been through up until the kick hit him.
And Lawler takes back over again. Brian Christopher Not an unusual role for him. He's over there cheerleading, and boy, his eyes are glistening, Dave. Brian loves this competition, and he's got him a partner he can swing with.
Yeah, watch out for that left fist, Flex Kavana. Yep, there it comes. We saw Lawler do the same thing last week against his opponent as he and Dundee won these belts.
Kavana coming straight after him. He took that shot from Lawler with that left hand and then headed right after him. And Lawler thought it'd be a good time to get the referee involved and keep those fists from flying.
Using the referee as a shield.
Yeah.
It was effective. And that speaks well for Mr. Kavana. He backed up rather than taking a swing and taking a chance on hitting the referee.
Lawler over to have a word with Bill Dundee. You still, regardless of how impressive Christopher and Kavana have looked, you still got to say, from the outside, Dundee rips with a right hand and another one. As while Lawler shovels him in, Jerry goes over at Brian Christopher and Dundee working on Flex with the referee's back turn. Lawler holding, Dundee pitching.
Cover 1, 2, oh, Flex Kavana throws Dundee about 3 feet in the air to break out of it at a 2 count. Dundee immediately over to the corner, the tag on Lawler. They double him up. Flex Kavana into the ropes. The upper arms from both of them. Dundee celebrating. He thinks maybe it's over. Lawler picking up Kavana. The match continues. USWA tag titles on the line here. The champions, Lawler, Dundee. And the right fist again doubled up, puts Kavana on the mat.
From the islands of Hawaii, Flex Kavana making a deep impression, but don't forget this guy. Here comes Too Sexy, pounding away. Lawler taking a shot first from Christopher, then from Kavana. A little coconut crush there as Christopher hammered their heads together, and now Dundee caught by Kavana, Lawler by Christopher. Into the ropes they go. Trying to get around behind. A double abdominal stretch on Dundee and Lawler. And the referee clobbered by Dundee. Bill rushed down on the deck while Christopher and Kavana holding on to the abdominal stretches. Dundee reached out, Dave, and just hammered him with that left hand.
That's one of those things we were talking about. Dundee did that on purpose. That's going to get him disqualified. These guys are in danger of losing the match right here. He nails the referee. That's a DQ. So Lawler and Dundee are going to keep the belts on the disqualification. No signal from the referee, but mark my word, that's what it's got to be. I mean, Dundee just point blank nailed him with a fist.
Brian Christopher a little premature. He grabs the belts and he's indicating they are the new champs. That would be a difficult thing to believe because the referee turned around and signaled the bell. Of course, it could have been submission on the legal man in the ring, and now Rush is saying they are the winners.
Yep, they are the winners, but
just
by DQ.
Just what you said, Dave, by disqualification.
Well, I hate to see that, and the match the belts don't change hands on the disqualification, but really the referee had no choice. When he is hammered like that, all he can do is disqualify Dundee and Lawler, and there should be a fine attached to it, too.
Brains is what it's all about, Dave. Who's still the champions, the king and the superstar?
Yeah, well, you call it brains, we may call it something else.
I'd call it purposely hitting the referee. We got to take a break. That's all. No more.
The 18th version of Talking Memphis Wrestling, and I want to say hello to my friend, Louisville, Kentucky referee Joe Wheeler in the house. I need a draw, Joe Wheeler, need a draw. Hey, everybody, this has been a fantastic show. I would like to add in that, and this was June of 96, not only was that Flex Kavana, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's debut match on USWA Wrestling, that's his, to the best of my knowledge, his first wrestling match in front of people ever in his life. His first promo live on a wrestling television ever in his life. And before we get to Pat, Michael had something that he wrote down that he wants to tell you about.
And I don't know the timeline of this. I really don't. But there was a match with Dave Brown and myself that we talked about the debut of Rocky Johnson Jr. And it was on Memphis TV, but I don't recall the year. You're saying this is 96. You were booking. Was there a chance that he came in as Rocky Johnson Jr. before he joined the WWE? Because I know his dad trained him quite a bit.
But they live in Florida. And
right.
I started booking in 94. So I have no recollection of that at all.
We've got a great audience that maybe somebody knows or can add to that. But there is a match, and I've got it somewhere on YouTube on our YouTube channel where it's Dave and I introducing Rocky Johnson Jr. And I don't know where that falls in the timeline.
What do you think, Pat Trammell, about that action?
Maybe that's one of the outside kids, Michael. I thought he was very polished in the ring. I thought that was the oldest of the old school angle with the disqualification. And I thought that was the way to do it. He looked like, that did not look like a first match from somebody to me. Even knowing where he comes from. Huh?
Yeah, he was a natural. Just
he really was.
Of course, you see the growth in everything. You see the growth in his body. You see the growth in his working ability, his wrestling ability. You see his growth in talking and doing the interviews. This don't come overnight, but I will say that it came to him as quick as about anybody. But I would still say that when I would say who impressed me the most in their first match, do you know who I'm going to say to that, Michael? In my career, who in their first match impressed me the most?
In their first match?
In their very first match, who impressed me the most? So it obviously been somebody that I would have saw their last match or their first match.
Brian Christopher?
No, but I did see his first match, and that did impress me too. Jeff Jarrett.
Okay.
Against Tony Falk.
That's
unbelievable.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and Jeff was a natural too.
So what now? The Rock talked about having his first match in Memphis against Tony Falk.
And I'm thinking that may be as Rocky Johnson Jr. before he joined the WWE.
No, his first match in Memphis, and I said it earlier, was 2 days after this television appearance. He defeated Tony Falk in the opening match of the Mid-South Coliseum card, the next to last Mid-South Coliseum card on Monday night, June the 10th, at the Mid-South Coliseum. Flex Kavana defeated Tony Falk.
And so this was on the 8th.
This TV show was June the 8th.
Okay.
So he's saying his first match wasn't the TV match, but was the house match at the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah.
No, but he was wrong then, because the TV was on June the 8th, and on June the 10th, Tony Falk.
Gotcha.
Okay.
No, you're right. You're right, man. You're right.
So now, and we'll say Adam had something to say about this. So Tony Falk did the first or the second match with both Jeff and The Rock. That's really something that deserves a place in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Just as a sideline, and how many times, we've been talking about people that are successful and then their predecessor, their successors. Let's take that to the wrestling thing with wrestlers and their children. How many times can we say that wrestlers of the second and third generation exceeded their predecessors as to wrestlers of the second and third generation that were, as many people call it, the drizzling shits? And, and what comes to mind immediately is the way people talk about George Goulas. Joey Rossi comes to mind. Greg Gagne comes to mind. they did not get to the point where their predecessor or their family predecessor was. But my gosh, The Rock, Peter Maivia was a huge international star. That his grandfather, Rocky Johnson, was a huge star, his father. But I dare say the Rock star is bigger than all of them combined.
Well, Randy and I were talking earlier in the week, and he said, and I mean, the only reason I quote you on this, Randy, is you're much more of an authority than I am, and I believe you. You know, Rocky Johnson is the biggest wrestler there has ever been. Not Rocky, The Rock. The Rock is the biggest wrestler there's ever been, as far as fame and all that. Right.
Now, I told the story earlier that Vince wanted to go with Flex Kavana, even though I was against it. And I verbalized it in the entire few months because he started on June the 8th. His last match was on August the 24th. He wrestled in Louisville and Evansville and Nashville and all the spot shows. He also wrestled after the Coliseum, and we left that and went to the big one. And his last match was August the 24th, 1996. And he just fantastic. But at the point was that I would say this Flex Kavana is not the name. And I said, we could have done so much better if we would have acknowledged his heritage, because I knew the heritage was not just Rocky Johnson. It was from a WWE point also. Peter Maivia, his grandfather, was a huge star. His dad, Rocky Johnson, along with Tony Atlas, Mr. USA, were the first ever African-American WWF Tag Team Champions. So much legacy. So as Joe Wheeler pointed out to me when he debuted, Vince, this is the thing about Vince. If something's not working, he won't continue. We all have continued to just go with stuff we felt very high on. But when they debuted The Rock in the WWF, they went with Rocky Maivia. And then he himself changed that when he started talking in third person as The Rock. So just very, very interesting stuff. And we want to go to one last video. And unless Adam has another video that he wants me to do before I pitch to the 824 match, and this was The Rock's Flex Kavana's last match on Memphis TV. It's a short match, but a promo beforehand. And I want to compare that, his promo ability in 1996, to what you saw, Pat, as he did that concert at the FedEx Forum. And we'll watch the second video in the clips section right now on Talking Memphis Wrestling with Michael, Pat, and Adam. And me.
Lawler against this man, Flex Kavana. The match just about to happen.
You know, that's right, Dave. When they told me earlier this week that I was going to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler, I did a little thinking, Dave. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? Week in and week out, whether it's here in the USWA or whether it's Monday Night Raw with the WWF, Jerry Lawler is always running his mouth. Well, I thought about it, Dave, and you know what? If Jerry Lawler says that he's half the man he thinks he is, then he'll give me a title shot. He'll give me a unified world title shot right here Saturday morning on TV, right in front of all the good people of the USWA.
Well, I'd love to have that. I don't know if he'll do it. I mean, this match is signed as a non-title match, so I don't know if he's not always that easy to convince, and I'm sure the promoters would like time to promote the title match and all of that. But it sounds like a wonderful idea if he would agree to it. Here he is right here, the King.
Well. We got Flex Kavana out here trying to play a little mind game with the King. Trying to make a few little witty comments. I understand he spends half his time trying to be witty. That makes him a half-wit, right? Let me tell you something, Flex. You know, I was playing mind games with people like you probably when you were still wearing diapers. So let me tell you, you're not going to be able to get one up on the King and get me to fall for your little trick of putting my title at stake when you got nothing at stake. See, that means I got everything to lose and nothing to gain, right? Am I right or wrong, huh?
That's right.
All right. Hey. So I'll tell you what I will do. I like you, Flex. Good-looking young guy, got a lot of potential. I'd lose the shades, but other than that, I'll I'll do it. I'll go ahead and make this match we're fixing to have a unified World Heavyweight Championship match right here on television today under one condition. Under one condition. Flex. Come back, Flex. Lassie, come home. Flex, under one condition. If you win, you leave here with this belt and you're the champion.
Sounds good. Championship match.
But, if I win, you just leave here. Get it? You leave here with no belt. I mean, you leave and you don't come back. You leave the USWA, and then I don't have to worry about punks like you trying to trick me out of my title anymore. Come on. Oh, Flex, look. You're a big confident man a few minutes ago. You're going to win a world title.
Flex, I mean, it's a title match. Maybe it's another title match down the road for you here. Without such a stipulation. You look, because you lose, you're out of here. That's...
You know what, Dave? Success is all about opportunity. This is my opportunity right here, right now. Let's do it.
Oh, wait a minute now. Let's get this straight. You win, you're the champion. But if I win, you're out of here. You are out of town. You are gone. History. Arrivederci. So long. Sayonara. Right? You got that? You're gone.
I got it.
Well, the match is done. All right, let's go. Let's go to the ring. Downtown Bruno in the ring right now. We got to get this one underway.
Opportunity, Dave. He's going to have the opportunity to get on a bus and get out of town after this match.
He's got the opportunity. His opportunity has become the unified world champion. That's what his opportunity is right here.
Well, you can't really blame this Kavana, though, Dave.
Well, that's true.
Flex with a heck of an opportunity right here today. One of the few opportunities that I'm sure received in his wrestling career to have a chance to be the unified world heavyweight champion. It's Lawler and Kavana. Unified world title is on the line versus Flex Kavana leaving the USWA.
Yes, indeed. Time is winding down. This expiration of time match here. Just underway.
Lawler going up to Kavana, and
we've actually got about, well, it's less than a minute to go before we've got to take a break. I wish we had more time for this, but we've gotten into a time bomb here.
yeah, time is running a little funny here right now. For this time.
Now we've had to, Flex Kavana has left the area. We're going to have to take a break here. Oh, here comes Bart Sawyer out, his former partner. We have to take a break. We're going to have to ring the bell here. Talk about your excitement. We had to cut away for the commercials. They just kept going. The bell has not sounded to end the match. They are still underway. Unified world title at stake. Lawler put the belt at stake. If Flex Kavana loses, he's out of the USWA. And they have been battling. Scott Bowden, what is he doing? He's in the ring. Oh, Bart Sawyer pulls him back out of the ring.
Bart Sawyer was brought out here by Kavana as we went to our commercial break, and Sawyer's even things up. Meanwhile,
Kavana's got it down. We've got 15 seconds before we're going to have to leave the air. Flex Kavana just missed the chance to be the world champion.
Kavana had Lawler, and the King nailed Flex
Lawler
Kavana.
nailed him.
Oh, he set
He's
him
got a
up
power
in.
driver.
Pile drive Flex Kavana. He's got him covered. Bruno's in there.
1, 2.
Oh, no.
Kavana's gone. We got to go. We'll see you next week. Until then, for Corey Macklin, I'm Dave Brown. So long, everybody.
The announcers on this program are selected and paid by parties other than this station, namely the promoters of USWA Championship Wrestling.
We saw the first appearance of none other than Flex Kavana, Dwayne Johnson, the Future Rock. Then we saw him team with Brian Lawler against Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. And his last appearance, I remember being up in the control room screaming at the referee and just screaming, out of time, out of time, out of time. And we just barely got that finish in. We just got that finish in. Pat, what did you think right then about that situation?
I thought it was a good way to get it back to New York, but I mean, you can just see the athleticism in the guy. I mean, you know, he was a polished guy even at that point. So,
how about you, Michael? Final comments on The Rock?
The whole point of that match was because they wanted to move him to New York, right? We had to get him out of here.
Yeah, he was finishing up August 24th, 1996.
So he was not, you know, when you look at the dates that he was here, May to August, he improved a lot, especially with his interviews. He did a heck of a job there, guys.
June the 6th was his first. June the 8th was his first appearance. His first appearance, as Adam said in producer notes, was the night before in South Fulton, Kentucky. Jamie and Whoopi called me the day, and Whoopi said, "Randy, do you have Dewey on television?" And I said, as Adam, our great award-winning producer, puts that up there, and that might be where it says. So this is what I think about what you're thinking about Rocky Johnson Jr. Maybe by mistake, I might have advertised, knowing it was Rocky's son. I could have advertised that, but once he made his first TV appearance, it was Flex Kavana. But we see Lawler and Jarrett.
A unified world title match on the card with the King Jerry Lawler taking on Double J Jeff Jarrett. Also a first blood match, a tag title match. You'll see the Cyberpunks, Too Sexy Brian Christopher, Bill Dundee on the card with Samantha, Miss Texas, and newcomer Dwayne Johnson, all signed for wrestling, coming up Friday night in South Fulton there at the high school.
So by that point, we were calling him Dwayne Johnson, but by the time we got to that Saturday, a day later, that advertising went out a month before on booking the card. So that's exactly what happened there. That was just it's just unbelievable to me, and almost puts me with no words to guess. Did I think he had a future in this business? Yes. Did I think that he was going to be the hottest movie star in the world and gross more money than any actor ever? Absolutely not. How would that have entered my mind, Michael? How would I have known that, or how would have anybody have known that? But Vince McMahon did.
Well, I think we were all impressed by him, and knowing the genes and knowing the lineage in the family, he was bound for stardom. The other thing I like about him, and Randy backed me up on this, he was as clean cut of a young man when he came to the WWE, or actually when he came to the USWA, as anybody that I've ever worked with. He was a yes sir, no sir, ready to do what he had to do to get him over. And you couldn't ask that. That's the perfect pupil. Now,
I will tell you something, and I will leave out names just so basically I'm protecting not the innocent, I'm protecting the guilty as I tell this story. When Brian first went up to the WWF, he rode daily with a certain individual who was not living a clean life at all. So eventually, within a week or two, Dwayne said, "Hey, man," said, "I got too much to lose. I want to be on top of the world here. And by being associated with stuff that you're doing," said, "I can't risk it." So he went by himself. So he was smart himself. Another thing, just so much great stuff. When he came to Memphis, Tennessee, on that day, June the 10th, June the 8th TV, he had $7 in his pocket. What's the name? What is the name, Michael St. John, of Dwayne Johnson's current production studio and business that produces movies? What's the name of that?
I think it's $7 production, is it?
$7 production.
$7, yeah.
Now we have another.
Yeah, he remembers
question.
Memphis.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
also
no.
you got to remember he was living in Nashville, and he went over to Maplewood High. He was a football player at Maplewood High School as a high school player, and that's where he got recruited
in the
from.
80s, the late 80s, right? Maybe
Right. That's correct.
87,
Yeah.
88. So Frank Seaton's driving me crazy and won't know this. He's the most favorite part about this show is your cat. He wants to know the cat's name.
Jazz. Right, Jazz?
Jazz. All right.
Jazz.
Hey, Jazz. All
They're
right.
calling.
That is
but anyway,
great.
but getting back to The Rock, he was in high school. He graduated the University of Miami in 92. So he probably started in fall of 88. So he graduated in spring of 88. 92. This is 96. So it's only 4 years. So in those 4 years between high school or between his college graduation at the University of Miami and coming into Memphis wrestling, where was he?
I know that he pre-aged it to the NFL, didn't make it. He may have played in Canada.
Well,
I think he did.
Started wrestling. I think he started wrestling, and I think there was a match prior to that. And again, somebody's going to come up with this, and I know that I've seen the tape, and I've got it somewhere of Dave and I introducing him in his match on TV as Rocky Johnson Jr. And I don't think I dreamed that. I really don't.
I would like to see that tape because I think that point.
Me too.
I don't think that ever happened.
Well, if somebody out there has got it, that's the only way. But I'm almost, and I wasn't doing drugs back then, nor am I doing them now, except for my cholesterol. But anyway, for some reason, I remember that
because it would have. He had his football career and all that. He went to the WWE to get trained, and then he debuted in June of 1996. The years that I booked, you never did a television, so that was the end of 93, 94. Around the end of 93, 94, 90. I never remember ever being in the TV station, Michael, with you ever. I do remember working with you at the Nashville Fairgrounds and also at Randy Westhouse, never at TV5 at all. I just don't know when that would have been. I don't know when it would have been.
Well, just along my timeline, I left Nashville in 92, went to St. Louis for a year and then to Los Angeles, and then came back when I was back to St. Louis in 1995, came back in late 95, early 96 and did some stuff. But I think I want to say at one time you were at TV, but I think you were working in with Eddie Marlin and you were like the assistant booker or whatever at that point. But again, the timeline may be wrong. I know for a fact you and I worked at the fairgrounds, and I know we had several occasions where we got the opportunity to work at Randy Westhouse.
All right, Pat, final words about The Rock and sum it all up, the difference in how he was in 1996 and how he was Friday night.
Well, to fill in some gaps, he was at Miami from 90 to 94. So he spent 95 in Canada and then 96 started wrestling. I mean, just a great story. The guys, and this includes everybody watching or participating here, the guys that can stay disciplined generally get rise in what they're doing. And, that guy, I mean, he knew how to put the work in. He knew how to keep the distractions out. And, God bless him. And I think, just not going to be another one like that guy. And I'm glad, like a lot of legends, starting with, go back as far as you want. A lot of legends started in Memphis, Tennessee.
I'm going to do something as we're coming to the last 15 minutes of the show, and certainly what I'm going to do next won't take that long. But Adam, I just want you to back me up. I'm just going to read a Facebook post that I posted 3 hours ago, and I know by looking at the comments and the number of people that's watched the show today, we do have a lot of people here for the first time, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or the Power Pro Facebook, the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame Facebook, or this Randy Hales Facebook page. We broadcast from the service restream and then broadcasting on all those platforms. I wrote something today, and if you're listening to this show and don't know what the heck you're watching, I want to read this post that I did today on Facebook. I'm Randy Hales. I host a panel that consists of a radio TV icon, a banker, businessman, and an educator. We are professionally produced by Adam Dunn, who has experience and a passion for live programming. The major focus of this show is to keep the legacy of classic Memphis wrestling alive. We show comments from all over the world from our audience and also hear from our qualified panel. I offer the perspective of a lifelong wrestling fan who lived the dream of working in Memphis wrestling as a kid, to an announcer, to the GM and booker of USWA Wrestling, to finally the owner, founder, and president of Power Pro Wrestling. Our priority is to educate viewers on the history of Memphis wrestling with hands-on, real-life observations of Memphis wrestling. We also cover breaking news, sports, WWE, AEW, and more. Talking Memphis Wrestling airs every Tuesday at 7 Central on the Randy Hales Facebook page, Power Pro Facebook page, Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame Facebook, at RB Hales on Twitter, also at youtube.com/@RandyHales. Long live Memphis Wrestling. So I think sometimes it comes to a point in life when you're doing something, you want to go to another level, one level, and Pat's helping with this, and certainly in the body of this show, I'm going to have a production meeting, hopefully with Adam after this. We are going to upgrade the facilities here because at times I realize we have computer problems on my end and we got to fix that. And we're going to strongly upgrade this system, if not by next week's show, certainly the week after that. And I'm really excited about that. So I wanted a way to tell people what this show is all about. Pat, do you think I did a good job with that post telling people what we're about?
I think you did a great job doing that, and I think it was well said. I'm the third wheel in four professional, or the fourth wheel in four professionals here, and two legends and one legend in the making in production, and Adam Dunn. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be here.
As we're taking a minute to pat ourselves on the back, Michael St. John, this show is special to all of us. And I think that it's special to members of Team Hales that watch this show every week. And they're sharing it because that's how we're going to grow. First of all, it's on me to every week have good material. It's on the panel to have interesting stuff to say and go along with the BS creative that I put on the paper. Just like a wrestling show booking, you can be a genius putting it on paper. If the wrestlers don't go out there and perform and make it interesting, it's not going to be good. Just like this show, it can be good on paper, even though we're not using half of this. We're out of time. But this has been a very, I think, historic type of show. I think this has to be on the list with the Lance Russell stuff and the Rock stuff and Pat's opening spiel about his weekend. I think this has to be up here, Michael, with one of our better shows. And so, like fine wine, it ages better with time. And I think we're on our stride. Am I crazy saying that, or do you feel the same way as a professional broadcaster?
Well, you and I have exchanged text, and I've told you this flat out. I think this show is on a roll right now because of your creative, without a doubt. But I also want to say that we're getting good material from the outside to talk about. So with your creative genius and the outside influence of what we got to talk about, it's going to be, it's going to continue to get interesting. The one question I always get is, in fact, my good friend Chuck Ellis, who is a Alabama state trooper, made the comment that the shows, he said, boy, those shows are really good. But the one question that I've gotten a lot of lately is, how do people tune it in on their computer like we're watching it now? I've got it on Twitter over here to my right, and I know we're on Facebook Live as well. But people want to know what site to go to watch it on their computer.
Go to Facebook on the computer, go to YouTube on the computer, go to Twitter on the computer. The best way, I think, and the best signal, I think, is YouTube.com. So it is Randy Benton Hales at, oh, no, I told you wrong. It's YouTube.com/ at Randy Hales. Okay. It's up there now. YouTube.com/ at Randy Hales. So that's the best way to tell them. Remember when we were on HAP several years ago? I like that better as far as people watching, so you could go directly to HAPs. This way, this is a restreaming service that directs it to other things. We have 3 Facebook pages, and we also have it on Twitter or X and on YouTube. There's also other options that you can do, Instagram, but I'm not set up for that. I'm set up for 5, and I have 3 Facebook pages, a YouTube page, and a Twitter page. So does that make sense, Michael?
Absolutely. And I also, that gives me something to put on our website as well. Because when I quote it on Twitter, or we put it on the Fun 92.7 or Fun Radio TN websites, it gives me an address where we can send people to watch it, because I do get that quite a bit.
Me too.
PJ says YouTube may be the easiest way. You don't have to subscribe. You just go to YouTube and click on the live section, and then you subscribe to the channel. Just do the address that Adam put up there, youtube.com/ at Randy Hales. Laza says he's been doing YouTube. I think it's just better. I really do. I think that's the best way. Just search Randy Hales and find the channel, Ronnie Crowder. Watch it on about all of them, but I like Facebook the best because it seems more people interacting on Facebook, and that's true. That's true. My Facebook page is where we get the most views. The quickest growing format is YouTube, and so that's important for us to build. So I would advise people to do it on YouTube for sure. We didn't have any trouble, very much luck at all with Twitch, and this is a work in progress to try to have this going. Jeremy says he gets his streaming from Facebook, phone to cable TV app. So there's different ways to get it, but I would suggest YouTube or Facebook, Michael.
That's perfect, and that gives me something to pass on, because I really haven't noticed. I've always said, well, I watch it on Twitter because while we're on, I've got it on the Twitter feed to my right. So I said, well, it's on Twitter. You can find it on Twitter. But now that I know how to get to it on YouTube, that's a great suggestion. And of course, on Facebook, on your Facebook page, correct? Follow you on Facebook.
Yeah, follow me on Facebook, Randy Hales Facebook, or Power Pro Wrestling Facebook page, or Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, or on Twitter, it's at RB Hales. So there's all kinds of way.
Just real quick, Randy, if I can plug something real quick. I've watched the first 2 episodes of The Dark Side of the Ring this year, and I don't think they've lived up to snuff, but I think tonight maybe they're doing the show on Terry Gordy.
I think that'll be good. I haven't watched the shows, but I heard I forgot the 2. The one, the Buff Bagwell one, I heard Cornette.
Yeah, yeah. But I honestly, I didn't think either of those first 2 shows lived up to what that show has been all about in the past seasons.
I think they're running out of stories, maybe. People that will talk to them.
A good question. or the
Next
characters that
week,
are really messed up.
Pat, I missed the boat. I like to think outside the box, and I just thought of this idea, and maybe we can do it, even though it won't be as timely. Your son Wyatt and his buddy, and maybe even Suzanne, a perspective of somebody that's not into wrestling as much as we are, you are. I would have loved to have them on the show, and maybe someday, because all we have to do is send them a link, and I would like to have them visit and talk about that experience, because even though it won't be timely, the Pro Wrestling Experience Live, do you think that's a good idea?
I'm sure they'd love to do that.
For sure, for sure. All right. Final words on this show today. And I will tell you, next week we will preview WrestleMania, talk about the Hall of Fame, and have a lot more Memphis wrestling stuff and final words, as this show's been a lot of stuff. As we see the Philadelphia WrestleMania graphic right there. Pat, we talked about a ton of stuff. Your trip to Memphis last week, we talked heartfelt about Lance Russell, and we talked about The Rock. Big Show, final comments from you.
Well, last week was special because I had not taken my oldest to wrestling before, and we had a lot of fun together. And it's we're not the kind of family that dwells on these father-son moments, but that was one of those, and I was thankful for that. And I'm thankful for this family. Michael, Adam, Randy, and everybody who watches, that I get the privilege and the honor to be with every week. And you all know who you are, and you're a very, very special part of my life. And thank you for that.
Very well said, no doubt about it. And there he is at the top of the screen. Final words, and we got about 2 minutes for Michael St. John's final words of today's show, but he'll be back next week.
Amen. I'm just going to echo what Pat said, and the opportunity and love to work with you guys. I hope, and I really have said this to you guys in private, and I may have mentioned it on the air, I hope one of these Tuesday nights that we can all be in the same room and do a live show all together in a panel kind of thing. I think that would be, especially maybe for an anniversary show or something. But I stopped my world to be part of this show, because this show means so much to me, to be with you guys and to be with the people that follow and listen and watch. It's a special moment in my life, and I'm blessed. And Randy, I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be a part of it. I really appreciate that you allow me to do this.
I remember you joined us. Pat had found this and joined the show. And then one day, out of the blue, we were not able on Twitter at that time. I was doing Twitter only show. I wasn't able to do video, just the audio, and it was pretty easy for people to come on with audio. And I didn't know, because I didn't know what Saint the Ain't is. And that's what Michael and Adam will put Michael's Twitter handle up there if you could, right there. Be sure to follow Michael St. John on X, on Twitter. There you go. Saint That Ain't One. He represents Fun Radio Group, and that is his Twitter X account. Also, Pat Trammell on Twitter or X is at PB Tide as well. So it's funny how much, and there you see how you can find me, and we'd appreciate it if everybody would follow all of us. That would be great. That would be great. But is that not funny, Michael? It just started. You just happened to randomly catch the show, and I think that was at a time period after me and you had a conversation at Eddie Marlin's funeral, right? Your
That's
first
correct.
appearance on my show was after that.
That is correct, but it was only a month or so after that. I want to say we started in October. That was in August, and I think you started working, having me on and allowing me to be a part of it in October. So, yeah, that's exactly how it happened.
For sure. And one thing that happened, and Adam has reminded me, Adam called you. We were already friends, me and Adam. He called you to tell you the dates and the times of Eddie Marlin's funeral. And you told me that in our meeting, said, I heard you're doing a great podcast. And then I interviewed you. Jason Jarrett's son was the camera person. And when we inserted that into a Sunday night Facebook Live, we did as a tribute for sure.
I
Say good night, guys, real quick, and we'll get out of here.
Thank you, Randy. Love being with you. Pat, good seeing you, my friend.
Good
Thank you,
seeing you all. Good seeing all our friends.
Amen.
Thank you, Team Hales. For Pat Trammell, Michael St. John, the way Lance Russell did it yesterday would have been his 98th birthday. And there's no better way to do this than the way he would have done it, the way he used to do it when he said, for Dave Brown, this is Lance Russell saying, bye, everybody. I will do this for Adam Dunn, for Pat Trammell, for Michael St. John, Randy Hill saying, bye-bye, everybody.
From TV5 Wrestling Action, 11 o'clock Saturday.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.